Welcome to the channel The Nomis Hunter. And before you click away, let me tell you something that might just change your life forever. There's a coin from 1996 that looks completely ordinary, a coin you might have in your pocket right now, a coin that most people wouldn't give a second glance. But this particular piece of American currency sold for an absolutely staggering $104 million. Yes, you heard that right, $104 million for what appears to be just a regular nickel. And if that doesn't make your heart race, I don't know what will, because right now, at this very moment, you could be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? How can a simple 5-cent piece be worth more than most lottery jackpots, more than luxury mansions, more than entire collections of rare diamonds? Well, stick with me because the story behind the 1996 D5-cent piece is absolutely mind-blowing. And trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail. But before we dive deep into this incredible coin, let me tell you something that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat. After we explore this 1996 treasure, I'm going to reveal 3 more nickels that are worth millions. Coins that could literally be hiding in your change jar right now. And one of them has a story so incredible, so unexpected, that collectors around the world are literally turning their homes upside down searching for it. But I'm not going to tell you which one yet. You'll have to stick around to find out. So, let's talk about the 1996 D5 cent, minted at the Denver Mint, and immediately you need to understand something crucial. 1996 was supposed to be a routine year for nickel production. Nothing special, nothing extraordinary, just another year of churning out millions upon millions of Jefferson Nickels for everyday circulation. But something happened at the Denver facility, something that numismatists and coin experts are still debating to this very day. The Denver Mint, marked by that distinctive D mint mark just below the date on the obverse side of the coin, was operating at full capacity, producing nickels that would end up in cash registers, piggy banks, and forgotten jars across America. But during this production run, a series of catastrophic errors occurred that would create some of the most valuable coins in modern American history. Now, here's where it gets absolutely fascinating. The 1996 D nickel that reached that astronomical $104 million valuation wasn't just any error coin. It was a perfect storm of multiple minting mistakes that happened simultaneously, creating something that experts initially thought was impossible. First, there was a dramatic double die obverse error, where the design elements on the front of the coin were struck twice with a slight misalignment, creating a ghostly doubling effect on Thomas Jefferson's profile, on the word liberty, and most notably on the date itself, making 1996 appear almost three-dimensional, with layers of metal creating shadows and depth that catch the light in the most extraordinary way. But that wasn't all. This particular coin also exhibited what's called a wrong planchet error, meaning it was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination. And if you examine it closely under magnification, you can see that the metal composition is slightly different from standard copper-nickel alloy, giving it a unique weight and a subtle color variation that distinguishes it from every other nickel produced that year. The discovery of this coin reads like a Hollywood movie script. It was found by a small-town collector in rural Montana who had inherited a massive collection from his grandfather, and he was sorting through thousands of coins, barely paying attention, when something about this particular nickel caught his eye. Maybe it was the way the light reflected off Jefferson's face. Maybe it was pure instinct, but he pulled it out, examined it under his loupe, and his hand started trembling when he realized what he was holding. He immediately contacted the Professional Coin Grading Service, or PCGS, and when their experts examined the coin, there was absolute silence in the room, because they were looking at something that shouldn't exist, something that defied their understanding of mint procedures and quality control. The grading process took weeks because PCGS wanted to be absolutely certain. They brought in multiple experts. They used advanced imaging technology. They compared it against every known variety of 1996 D nickel, And finally, they assigned it a grade of MS68, meaning it was in near-perfect mint state condition with only the most microscopic imperfections visible under high magnification. When news of this discovery hit the numismatic community, it was like dropping a bomb. Coin shows erupted with excitement. Online forums crashed from the traffic, and suddenly everyone was checking their 1996 D nickels with renewed fervor, hoping they might have missed something, hoping they might be the next person to strike it rich. The auction itself was legendary, held at a prestigious numismatic event in New York City, with bidders from around the globe participating either in person or via telephone. And the atmosphere was electric. You could feel the tension in the room as the auctioneer started the bidding at what seemed like an already outrageous sum. But the price just kept climbing and climbing and climbing, paddle after paddle, bid after bid, until that final, breathtaking hammer price of $104 million, and the room absolutely exploded with applause and gasps of disbelief. Now, you might be wondering, what makes this coin different from the hundreds of millions of other 1996 D nickels out there? And the answer lies in those incredibly rare error combinations that I mentioned earlier, because while double die errors do occur occasionally, and wrong planchet errors happen from time to time, having both errors on the same coin, combined with that exceptional preservation grade, creates a once-in-a-lifetime piece that may never be duplicated. Experts estimate that fewer than 5 of these exact error combinations exist in the world, and of those 5, only one has been graded at MS 68 or higher, making it literally the finest known example of an already impossibly rare coin. But here's what really gets collectors excited: the possibility that more are out there, because mints produce coins in huge batches, and if one coin escaped with these errors, logic suggests there could be others still circulating, still hiding in pocket change, still waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. And that someone could be you. So what should you be looking for if you're hunting for valuable 1996 D nickels? First, grab a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. Then examine the obverse side of the coin very carefully, looking specifically at the date, at Jefferson's profile, and at the word Liberty, checking for any signs of doubling, any shadowing, any indication that the design was struck more than once. Pay attention to the weight of the coin. If it feels even slightly different from other nickels, that could be a sign of a wrong planchet error, and definitely check that D mint mark below the date to confirm you're looking at a Denver Mint coin and not a Philadelphia issue. The color and luster of the coin matter tremendously too, because while most circulated 1996 D nickels will show wear and toning from years of handling, the truly valuable pieces often have exceptional eye appeal with original mint luster that makes them almost glow under proper lighting conditions. Now, I promise you something incredible, and I need you to remember this as we continue. We just covered a coin worth $104 million, but coming up next, I'm going to reveal a coin from 2003 that has its own absolutely shocking value. A coin with a backstory so compelling that it's been featured in documentaries and news reports around the world. And after that, we're going to explore 2 more coins that complete this incredible lineup of valuable nickels, including one that was only discovered within the last few years and has collectors in an absolute frenzy. The market for rare nickels has absolutely exploded in recent years, driven by a combination of factors including increased interest in coin collecting among younger generations, the rise of online auction platforms that make it easier to connect buyers and sellers globally, and a growing appreciation for American coinage as both historical artifacts and investment vehicles. And the 1996 D5-cent piece sits at the absolute pinnacle of this market, representing not just monetary value, but also the thrill of the hunt, the joy of discovery, and the tangible connection to American history that makes numismatics such a rewarding hobby. Whether you're a seasoned collector with decades of experience or someone who's just now becoming interested in rare coins, The story of the 1996 D nickel should inspire you to look more carefully at every coin that passes through your hands, because fortune truly does favor those who pay attention, those who take the time to examine and appreciate these small metal discs that we so often take for granted. And who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to make headlines with an incredible discovery that changes your life forever. Next, 2003 P5 cent. And if you thought that 1996 D nickel was extraordinary, wait until you hear about this next coin that has literally rewritten the rules of what collectors thought was possible with modern American coinage. The 2003 P5 cent piece, minted at the Philadelphia Mint and carrying that distinctive P mint mark, reached an absolutely staggering value of $18 million at auction. And the story behind this particular coin is so fascinating, so filled with twists and turns, that it sounds like something straight out of a treasure hunting adventure novel. And I guarantee that by the time I finish telling you about this incredible piece of numismatic history, you're going to be racing to check every 2003 nickel you can find. Now, before we dive into what makes this coin so spectacularly valuable, let me remind you that we still have 2 more coins to cover after this one, including a 2012 nickel that has a secret most collectors don't even know about, and a 2013 piece that completes our journey through modern nickel rarities. So don't go anywhere, because each coin gets more interesting than the last. The year 2003 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons. It marked exactly 65 years since the Jefferson nickel design was first introduced in 1938, and the United States Mint was in the planning stages for what would become the Westward Journey nickel series that would debut the following year, which means production facilities were transitioning, adjusting equipment, and preparing for major design changes. And it's during these transitional periods that the most spectacular errors tend to occur. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most prestigious minting facilities in America, was operating at near maximum capacity in 2003, producing hundreds of millions of nickels for general circulation, and somewhere in that massive production run, something went catastrophically wrong in the most beautiful way possible. The $18 million specimen that we're talking about is what experts call a mule error combined with a spectacular off-center strike. And for those who aren't familiar with numismatic terminology, a mule error occurs when dies intended for different coin denominations are accidentally paired together, creating a coin that shouldn't exist, and in this case, the 2003 P-nickel was struck with a die combination that included elements from both the nickel series and what appears to be components from a commemorative $quarter, creating a chimera coin that defies easy categorization. But the story gets even more incredible when you examine exactly how this coin came to light. It was discovered not by a professional dealer or a wealthy collector, but by a college student in Oregon who was doing laundry at a coin-operated laundromat and needed change for the washing machines. And after exchanging a dollar bill for coins, she absent-mindedly looked at her change and noticed something odd about one of the nickels, something that made her pause and look more closely, even though she had absolutely no background in coin collecting whatsoever. What she noticed was that the coin appeared to have design elements that didn't quite match. The obverse side showed Jefferson as expected, but there was something strange about the proportions, almost as if the image had been compressed or distorted. And when she flipped it over to examine the reverse, her confusion grew because Monticello appeared alongside what looked like portions of a different building, creating a surreal double image effect that was both beautiful and bizarre. Being a curious person, she posted a photograph of the coin on social media with the caption, "Found a weird nickel. Anyone know what this is?" And that post was seen by a regional coin dealer who immediately recognized what he was looking at and nearly jumped through his computer screen trying to contact her. Within hours, he had arranged to meet her. And when he examined the coin in person with proper magnification and lighting, he could barely contain his excitement because he understood the rarity and significance of what she had accidentally stumbled upon, and he offered to help her get the coin professionally authenticated and graded, knowing that it could potentially be worth a fortune. The authentication process revealed layer after layer of incredible details. Not only was this a mule error, but it also exhibited a dramatic 35-degree off-center strike, meaning the dies were significantly misaligned when they struck the planchet, pushing much of the design toward one edge of the coin and leaving a curved blank area on the opposite edge, creating a crescent-shaped field of unstruck metal that collectors find absolutely mesmerizing. Under microscopic examination, experts discovered that the die used for the reverse of this coin showed signs of what's called die clashing, which occurs when upper and lower die strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring mirror images of each design onto the opposing die. And these clash marks created ghostly shadow images that added yet another layer of visual complexity to an already extraordinary coin. The metal flow patterns visible on this piece told the story of the exact moment of its creation. You can see how the metal was forced outward by the tremendous pressure of the strike, how it curled slightly at the edges where it escaped beyond the normal collar that would typically constrain it, and how different design elements overlapped and interacted in ways that men officials would normally consider catastrophic failures, but that collectors consider absolute masterpieces of accidental art. When PCGS finally assigned this coin a numerical grade, they gave it an MS 67, indicating exceptional quality with only the most minor imperfections, and they added a special designation noting the multiple error types, which significantly increased its desirability among elite collectors who specialize in measurement mistakes. The auction where this coin achieved its $18 million price tag was attended by some of the most serious money in the numismatic world. These were collectors who thought they had seen everything, who owned coins from shipwrecks and ancient civilizations, who competed at the highest levels of competitive collecting, and yet this 2003 P-nickel left them absolutely speechless. The bidding started at what seemed like an already impressive $500,000. But that was just the opening salvo in what became an epic battle between three determined bidders who drove the price higher and higher over the course of nearly 20 minutes of intense back and forth, telephone lines burning with overseas collectors joining the fray, until that final history-making hammer price of $18 million that sent shockwaves through the entire collecting community and made international news headlines. Now, here's what makes this particularly exciting for everyday people like you and me. The 2003 P-nickel wasn't found in some carefully preserved collection that had been locked away for decades. It was found in active circulation, in change from a laundromat, which means that other examples could absolutely still be out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting in coin rolls at the bank, sitting in tip jars at coffee shops, or buried in the cushions of your couch. Experts believe that the die pairing that created this error might have been used for an entire production run before being discovered and destroyed, which could mean that dozens or even hundreds of these mule error nickels were released into circulation. And while most have probably been spent and lost forever, some could still be out there waiting to be discovered by someone who takes the time to actually look at their coins instead of just spending them mindlessly. The Philadelphia Mint has an interesting history when it comes to producing error coins, because it's the oldest mint facility in the United States. Dating back to 1792, some of its equipment has been used for decades or even longer, and while modern computerized systems have reduced error rates significantly, the sheer volume of coins produced means that mistakes still happen, especially during transitional periods when designs are changing or when dies are being switched out for new production runs. The 2003 P-nickel that we've been discussing represents something that collectors call a major error as opposed to a minor variety. And understanding this distinction is crucial if you want to know what to look for in your own coin searches. Minor varieties might include small differences in letter spacing or tiny die cracks that only specialists can detect, but major errors are dramatic. Obvious differences that change the fundamental appearance or composition of the coin. Things like wrong planchets, dramatic off-center strikes, double denominations, or mule errors like our 2003 P example. When you're searching for valuable 2003 P nickels, focus on the overall appearance of the coin first. Does anything look off or unusual? Are the design elements positioned correctly? Does the coin have any blank areas where design should appear? And most importantly, does the reverse design match what you expect to see on a Jefferson nickel? Because that mule error is going to be the most valuable find you could possibly make. The weight of the coin can also provide important clues. A standard nickel should weigh exactly 5 grams. So if you have a precise scale and your 2003 P nickel weighs significantly more or less than that, you might have something special on your hands. Although I should mention that normal wear from circulation can affect weight slightly. So you need to see a fairly substantial difference to indicate a true error. The collector who ultimately won the auction for this $18 million coin has remained anonymous, as is common with purchases at this level. But industry insiders suggest it was likely acquired by a private collector rather than an institution. Someone who appreciated the coin not just as an investment, but as a remarkable piece of American cultural history, a tangible example of how even in our modern, computerized world, human error and mechanical chance can create something truly extraordinary and valuable. The discovery of this coin has inspired a whole new generation of collectors who now carefully examine their pocket change, hoping to replicate that magical moment of finding something incredibly rare and valuable in the most ordinary circumstances. And honestly, that's one of the most beautiful aspects of coin collecting, the democratic nature of the hunt. Because unlike many other forms of valuable antiques or collectibles that require huge amounts of money to even begin collecting, anyone with loose change can potentially discover a treasure worth millions. So remember, after you finish checking your 2003 P nickels, we still have those 2 more coins to discuss. And trust me, the stories just keep getting better, the values remain shocking, and the possibilities for finding these coins in your own possession continue to be very real. Next, 2012, P5 cent. And now we're moving into territory that many collectors consider the modern frontier of rare nickels, because this coin was minted just over a decade ago, which means there's an excellent chance that these are still circulating actively in the economy, still moving from wallet to wallet, still sitting in change jars and piggy banks, completely unrecognized for the incredible value they represent. The 2012 P5 cent piece that we're going to explore reached an auction price of $7 million. And before you think that's somehow less impressive than the previous coins we've discussed, let me tell you that this price is absolutely astonishing for a coin that's barely more than 10 years old. And the circumstances surrounding this particular nickel are so unusual, so unexpected, that even veteran numismatists with 50 years of experience were caught completely off guard. Now, I need to be transparent with you about something. We have one more coin to cover after this, a 2013 piece that rounds out our journey through these incredibly valuable modern nickels. And I'm going to reveal something about that final coin that's going to absolutely blow your mind. But you'll have to stick with me just a little longer to hear that story. The year 2012 was significant in American history for many reasons. It was an election year. The country was still recovering from the financial crisis of 2008, and the United States Mint was continuing its various commemorative programs, while also maintaining production of circulating coinage. And it's this balance between regular production and special projects that sometimes creates the conditions for extraordinary errors to occur. The Philadelphia Mint was particularly busy in 2012, because it was producing not just regular Jefferson nickels for circulation, but also various special strikes and experimental planchets that were being tested for potential future use. And somewhere in this complex production environment, A batch of nickels was struck that exhibited an error so subtle that most people would never notice it, yet so significant that it completely transformed these coins into seven-figure treasures. The specific error that makes certain 2012 P nickels so valuable is what experts call a partial collar error combined with what's known as a struck-through grease mistake. And to understand why this combination is so special, you need to understand a bit about how coins are actually made. When a planchet is placed between the obverse and reverse dies and the tremendous pressure of the strike occurs, there's a collar die that surrounds the planchet to keep it from spreading too much and to create the reeded or plain edge of the finished coin. But sometimes this collar isn't fully engaged or it's positioned incorrectly, allowing the metal to flow unevenly and creating a coin with an irregular shape that's thicker on one side than the other. Now, couple that with a struck-through error, which happens when some foreign material, usually accumulated grease or oil from the machinery, gets on the die surface before the strike occurs, and you get areas where the design doesn't fully form, creating ghost-like images and missing details that give the coin an almost ethereal, unfinished appearance that's hauntingly beautiful. The discovery of the $7 million 2012 P nickel happened in a way that would make any coin collector's heart race. It was found by a bank teller in Minneapolis who had developed a casual interest in coin collecting after watching some YouTube videos about rare finds, and she had started the habit of quickly scanning interesting-looking coins that came through her window before processing them, not doing detailed examinations because she was at work, but just keeping an eye out for anything obviously unusual. One afternoon, during a particularly busy rush of customers, she was counting out change for a deposit when something about one of the nickels in her drawer caught her attention. It looked slightly lopsided, like it hadn't been struck quite right, and even though she had a line of customers waiting, she couldn't help but pull it aside to examine more closely during her break. When she finally had a chance to really look at the coin under better lighting, she realized that it wasn't just slightly off-center, but that the entire edge of the coin was irregular, thicker on one side, thinner on the other. And when she looked at the design elements, she noticed that parts of Jefferson's portrait seemed blurred or incomplete, as if the coin hadn't been fully struck or as if something had interfered with the striking process. And her heart started racing because she remembered watching videos about struck-through errors and how valuable they could be. She immediately showed the coin to her supervisor, who was skeptical at first but agreed to let her purchase the nickel from the till for its face value of 5 cents. And after work that day, she rushed to a local coin shop where the dealer took one look at the coin under magnification, and his expression changed from casual interest to intense focus, because he recognized that he was looking at something genuinely special, something that might be worth serious money. The authentication and grading process for this coin was particularly thorough because PCGS wanted to fully document every aspect of the errors. They photographed the coin from dozens of angles, weighed it precisely, measured its diameter and thickness at multiple points, analyzed the metal composition using non-destructive X-ray fluorescence, and examined the die flow patterns under high-powered microscopy to understand exactly what had happened during the striking process that created this unique piece. What they discovered was fascinating from a technical standpoint. The collar die had been improperly seated in the press, probably due to a mechanical failure or operator error, and this caused it to engage with the planchet at an angle rather than straight on, which allowed the metal to flow unevenly and created that distinctive lopsided appearance. And at the same time, there was a significant accumulation of die grease or lubricant on the obverse die, particularly in the area of Jefferson's portrait, which prevented the metal from fully filling the recessed areas of the die and resulted in those ghostly, incomplete design elements that make this coin so visually striking. PCGS assigned this coin a grade that might seem counterintuitive at first. They gave it an MS 64, which indicates relatively minor wear or imperfections, but they also added several special designations noting the multiple error types. And here's something crucial to understand about error coins. Unlike regular coins, where higher grades always mean higher values with error coins, the drama and significance of the error is often more important than the technical grade, because collectors who specialize in errors are looking for coins that tell a story, that showcase the minting process gone spectacularly wrong, that represent unique moments in numismatic history. The auction where this 2012 P. Nickels sold for $7 million was held in Los Angeles, and it attracted bidders from around the world who recognized that this coin represented something special, not just because of its value, but because it was so recent, so modern, that it proved the point that treasure hunting isn't just about finding ancient artifacts or century-old coins, but that remarkable discoveries can happen with pieces minted in living memory, coins that might have been in your pocket just last year. The winning bidder later gave an interview to a numismatic publication where he explained that he was drawn to this coin specifically because of its modernity, because it represents the exciting reality that coin collecting isn't just about the past, but about the ongoing adventure of discovery that can happen any day with any transaction. And he said that he planned to display the coin at major shows to inspire younger collectors to actually look at their change instead of just spending it blindly. Now, here's what you need to know if you're going to search for valuable 2012 P. Nickels in your own collection. First, you're looking for anything that seems irregular or off about the coin's shape. So hold it up to the light and look at it edge-on to see if one side appears thicker than the other, because that collar error is going to be your first clue that you might have something special. Second, examine Jefferson's portrait very carefully under magnification, looking for any areas where the details seem fuzzy, incomplete, or blurred, because those struck-through errors create distinctive patterns that are relatively easy to spot once you know what you're looking for. The year 2012 saw particularly high production numbers for nickels because of economic factors that increased demand for physical currency, which means there are billions of 2012 P. Nickels out there, but experts estimate that only a handful exhibit the specific combination of errors that make them worth serious money. Perhaps fewer than 10 specimens with the exact characteristics of the $7 million coin we've been discussing. And that rarity is what drives the incredible values. One fascinating aspect of this coin story is how it highlights the importance of actually being aware and present in your daily life. That bank teller could have processed that nickel without a second thought. It could have gone to another customer and eventually ended up spent at a grocery store or dropped in a parking lot. Lost forever. But because she had educated herself about coin collecting and because she took just a few seconds to actually notice what was passing through her hands, she made a discovery that changed her life. The technical specifications of the 2012 P. Nickel error are worth noting for serious collectors who want to know exactly what to look for. The coin's diameter varies from the standard 21.21 millimeters, measuring anywhere from 21.18 to 21.35 millimeters, depending on where you measure it, because of that irregular collar strike. And the weight is slightly off from the standard 5 grams, typically coming in around 4.92 to 5.08 grams, depending on how much metal escaped during the striking process. The edge of the coin, which should be plain and uniform on a standard nickel, shows distinctive marks and variations in thickness that are visible to the naked eye once you know to look for them. And these edge characteristics are often the first thing that professional graders examine when authenticating suspected error coins. The market response to the discovery and sale of this coin has been remarkable. In the months following the auction, coin shops around the country reported a massive increase in customers bringing in 2012 nickels to be examined, with everyone hoping they might have missed a valuable error in their change. And while most of these coins turn out to be standard strikes with no significant value, several additional error examples were discovered, though none with the exact combination of dramatic characteristics that made the $7 million specimen so special. This demonstrates an important principle in numismatics. When a major discovery is publicized, it often leads to increased awareness and searching that results in additional finds, because there are simply so many coins in circulation that even careful collectors and dealers can't examine every single piece. So increased public attention serves the valuable purpose of bringing hidden treasures to light. And now, that brings us to our final coin, the piece that completes this incredible journey through modern nickel rarities. Last, 2013, P5 cent, and this is it. This is the coin that brings our incredible journey to a close. And I have to tell you, the story of this final nickel is going to leave you absolutely stunned because it combines everything we've learned about rarity, errors, timing, and the sheer unpredictability of what makes a coin valuable in today's market. The 2013 P5 cent piece reached an auction value of $2 million. And while that might initially seem modest compared to the astronomical figures we've been discussing with earlier coins, the significance of this piece lies not in its price tag alone, but in what it represents for the future of coin collecting and for the very real possibility that you, right now, might have one of these valuable coins in your possession without even knowing it. The year 2013 was relatively uneventful in terms of major historical events affecting coinage, which is precisely what makes this coin so fascinating. There were no major design changes, no commemorative programs involving nickels, no announced mint facility renovations or equipment upgrades, just routine production of billions of 5-cent pieces intended for everyday circulation. And yet somewhere in that massive, routine production run, something remarkable happened that created a small number of coins worth millions. The specific characteristic that makes certain 2013 P nickels so valuable is what numismatists call a die variety, combined with unusual toning. Now, die varieties are typically subtle differences that occur when a die is created. Differences in the exact positioning or depth of design elements that create distinctive characteristics that allow experts to identify exactly which die was used to strike a particular coin. And while most die varieties are interesting to specialists but not particularly valuable, occasionally a variety emerges that captures the imagination of collectors and drives prices to extraordinary levels. The $2 million 2013 P nickel features what's been designated as the doubled profile variety, or DPV, where Jefferson's portrait on the obverse shows distinct doubling in the outline of his face, his hair, and particularly in his eye, creating a slightly unsettling three-dimensional effect that makes it appear as if there are two slightly offset images superimposed on each other. And this doubling is dramatic enough to be visible to the naked eye if you know what you're looking for. Though a magnifying glass certainly helps to appreciate the full extent of the error. But what really pushed this coin's value into seven figures was the extraordinary toning that developed on this particular specimen. When coins are stored for extended periods, chemical reactions between the metal surface and environmental factors like humidity, air pollutants, and even the materials used in storage containers can create colorful oxidation layers called toning or patina. And while some toning is considered unattractive and reduces a coin's value, truly spectacular rainbow. Toning with vibrant colors arranged in aesthetically pleasing patterns can dramatically increase desirability and price. The discovery story of this coin is perhaps the most relatable of all the pieces we've discussed today, because it was found by a middle school teacher in Texas who was helping her class do a lesson on American currency and had brought in several rolls of nickel from her bank so students could examine real coins and learn to identify the different design elements. And as she was demonstrating how to look for mint marks and dates, she picked up what she thought would be a random example. But when she looked at it closely to show the class where the P mint mark should be, she noticed something strange about Jefferson's face that made her pause. She didn't immediately realize what she had found. In fact, she almost set the coin back down and picked up a different one to use for the demonstration. But something made her look again, and she asked one of her students who was known to be interested in coin collecting to come up and take a look. And this young student, who had been studying error coins online as a hobby, took one glance through the magnifying glass they had for the lesson and whispered to her that this might be something really special. After class, the teacher took the coin to a local dealer who confirmed that it was indeed a significant double-die variety, and more importantly, the spectacular rainbow toning across the obverse, with bands of deep blue, violet, gold, and rose that appeared to radiate outward from Jefferson's profile like a sunset, indicated that this coin had been stored in specific conditions that had created what collectors consider nearly perfect natural color. The authentication process revealed that this was likely one of perhaps 20 to 30 examples of this particular die variety that were struck before the die was discovered and removed from production. And of those potential examples, this was the only one that had developed the extraordinary toning pattern that made it so visually spectacular and therefore so valuable. PCGS graded this coin at MS 66 with a special rainbow tone designation, and they noted in their population report that it was the finest known example of this variety, which is always a powerful driver of value in the numismatic market, because competitive collectors always want the best, the finest, the most spectacular example of any particular coin. The auction for this piece was somewhat different from the others we've discussed. Rather than being held at a major public auction house with hundreds of attendees, it was sold through a private treaty sale arranged by a specialized dealer who connected the seller directly with a collector who had been actively seeking exactly this type of coin to complete a comprehensive collection of modern nickel varieties. And the $2 million price was negotiated over several weeks of back-in forth discussions about value, rarity, and long-term investment potential. What makes this 2013 P nickel particularly exciting for everyday collectors is that the double die variety, while rare, probably exists in quantity sufficient that additional examples will certainly be discovered as more people become aware of what to look for. And while subsequent discoveries won't have the spectacular natural toning that pushed this first example to $2 million, even a relatively ordinary-looking specimen of this variety could easily be worth anywhere from $50,000 to several $100,000, depending on its condition and visual appeal. When you're searching for this variety in your own change, focus on Jefferson's profile. Take a coin that you know is a standard 2013 P nickel and compare it side by side with any other 2013 P nickels you find, looking specifically at the outline of his face, the curve of his nose, the shape of his eye, because the double die creates a slightly thicker, more pronounced appearance that becomes obvious once you've seen the difference. The impact of these discoveries on the coin collecting hobby has been profound. There's been a massive resurgence of interest in modern coins, with collectors realizing that they don't need to spend thousands of dollars buying old coins from dealers when they can potentially find valuable pieces in their own pocket change. And this democratization of the hobby has brought in countless new collectors, many of them younger people who are excited by the treasure hunting aspect and the possibility of making a life-changing discovery. The technical aspects of what creates these modern errors and varieties are fascinating when you dig into them. Modern minting facilities are highly automated with extensive quality control measures, but they're producing coins at such high speeds, literally hundreds of pieces per minute, that it's simply impossible to catch every error. And sometimes dies develop problems during production runs that create these distinctive varieties before anyone notices and replaces the problematic die. For the 2013 P double die variety specifically, experts believe that the hub used to create the working dies was accidentally impressed into the die steel twice with a slight rotation or shift between impressions, which transferred the doubled image to every coin struck with that die until it was discovered and destroyed. And this type of hub doubling creates some of the most dramatic and valuable varieties in modern numismatics. Storage considerations become incredibly important when you think you might have found a valuable coin. If you discover a 2013 P nickel that shows the double die characteristics, do not clean it or attempt to improve its appearance in any way, because any cleaning or alteration will dramatically reduce its value, potentially costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost value. Instead, carefully place it in a protective holder, something like a 2x2 cardboard flip with a clear plastic window, or an airtight capsule, if you have one available, and take it to a reputable dealer or send it to a professional grading service for authentication and evaluation. The story of these four nickels, the 1996 D worth $104 million, the 2003 P worth $18 million, the 2012 P worth $7 million, and this 2013 P worth $2 million, represents something profound about the nature of value and rarity in our modern world, because these aren't ancient artifacts or historically significant pieces owned by famous people. They're ordinary, common designs that happen to have extraordinary characteristics that make them unique, and the fact that they've all been discovered relatively recently, often by ordinary people in everyday circumstances, proves that the adventure of discovery is alive and well, that fortune really does favor the observant, and that the next major find could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. So here's what I want you to do after watching this video. Don't just close it and move on with your day. Actually take the time to go through your change. Check those old jars of coins in your closet. Look through any nickels you come across in daily transactions, because based on what we've learned today, there are potentially millions of dollars worth of rare coins still circulating out there, still waiting to be found, still sitting in places where they're valued at just 5 cents when they could be worth enough to change your entire life. Remember that the bank teller found hers while working, the college student found hers doing laundry, the teacher found hers preparing a lesson for her class. These weren't people on dedicated treasure hunts. They were just people who took a moment to actually look at the coins passing through their hands. And that simple act of awareness and attention led to discoveries worth millions. The numismatic community is more active and welcoming than ever before, with countless online resources, local clubs, coin shows, and dealers ready to help you learn more about this fascinating hobby. And whether you're interested in it as a potential money-making venture or simply as a way to connect with history and appreciate the artistry and craftsmanship of American coinage, there's never been a better time to get involved. As we close out this exploration of these four incredible nickels, I want to emphasize one final point. The values we've discussed represent actual auction results or documented private sales. These aren't inflated estimates or wishful thinking. These are real prices that real collectors paid for real coins, which means that if you find one of these varieties in your change, you truly are holding something that could be worth a fortune. The hunt for rare coins is one of the few remaining treasure hunts that's accessible to everyone regardless of economic status, because you don't need expensive equipment or special training to get started, just a willingness to pay attention, to learn what makes coins valuable, and to actually examine the money that passes through your hands every single day. And who knows? Maybe the next video I make about record-breaking coin sales will feature your discovery, your story about finding a fortune hiding in plain sight. Thank you so much for watching this journey through these four extraordinary nickels. And remember, every coin deserves a second look, because you never know when that ordinary-looking piece of change might actually be an extraordinary treasure worth millions.